I'm Brian Goldfinger from Goldfinger Injury Lawyers. We'd like to wish you and your family a happy holiday season. Don't drink and drive, don't token drive, and wait till you get to your destination to reply to that text. Visit goldfingerlaw.com.
Hello and welcome to the Raptors Reaction Podcast. I'm your host, William Loom, speaking to you after the Toronto Raptors lost in overtime to the Brooklyn Nets. Jesus Christ. By a score of 106-105 in overtime in Brooklyn. It was Juventus night for some reason. Shout out Juve. But I mean, seriously, I don't... This was not a fun game to watch. It was exciting in the sense that you got to see Kawhi Leonard, and it's nice to see Kawhi Leonard dominate the way that he did, and he was the main reason why the Raptors stayed in the game. Him and JV, were the consistent scorers. Siakam to a lesser degree. But it was just a sluggish night from the Raptors, who just... They played like shit, man. They played like shit. They didn't deserve to win. Now, they still had a chance to steal it at the end of regulation. They had the ball. They went to Kawhi. They had 24 seconds, right? And they, so they had a timeout as well. Like, they could have set up something nice, but they gave it to Kawhi to isolate, straight up top, just have him dribble at the defense. I don't think that's a great way to play, but whatever. Not great. And yeah, I mean, Kawhi tries to get a screen from Siakam. Siakam, I don't get that decision from Nick Nurse, really. Like, why would you have Pascal Siakam as your center in that situation rather than JV or anyone else, right? Because why don't you, if the goal was to attack Gerald Allen, right, who is a center, and I guess they wanted Kawhi to just dribble at him and then get him on his get him on his heels and then shoot a jumper or whatever. But the idea was clearly to attack the five. So if that's the case, why don't you put a real center out there so that you can actually get a good screen? Because Siakam is like 115 pounds. Like, he's so skinny, he doesn't really make contact. And Kawhi wasn't able to shake Rondae Hollis-Jefferson, who did a pretty good job defensively, I thought. But I just didn't understand the decision. Like, why don't you put JV out there or Ibaka? One of the two of them. I don't know. But I mean, Kawhi dribbles. He gets a decent shot off. It's contested, but it's decent. It's a little short mid-range jumper. It rims out, goes to overtime. Then the Raptors, it's pretty tight throughout. Actually, Kawhi had a really good game-saving deflection, I guess. Kind of swatted at the ball as Spencer Dinwiddie was driving to the rim just before the end of overtime or end of regulation, and it was a very clean strip. I mean, when you see the highlights and the replays, you're like, I can't believe his hands are that quick. But Kawhi was making all sorts of types of plays, and overtime he was hitting corner threes, driving to the basket, dunking on people. Like, it's just so many good things were happening, and it looked like Kawhi was going to carry them to the win. And the Brooklyn Nets are going to have yet another heartbreaking loss. The Nets have had enough of those, losing to OKC, losing to Jimmy Butler, losing to Memphis, losing to Cleveland on an Alec Burks dunk. Like, they just had a lot of tough losses of late, and Memphis as well. And they were on an 8-game losing streak, and it was looking that way. Like, it looked like Kawhi was going to carry them home. However, again, end of the game scenario, the Raptors have the ball. They're down 1 after Gerald Allen has a little putback, although there might have been offensive interference on that. I don't know. They didn't review. They didn't check. I didn't think it impacted the play that much, but it looked like someone had touched the rim. Regardless, the Raptors had a chance to win. They give the ball to Kawhi once again. The first look that they tried to get didn't really go, so they sort of backed it out, and then Kawhi was like, I'm going to take my time and make sure I get a good shot here. And then Kyle Lowry decides, I'm going to set a screen for you as if you're DeMar DeRozan. And if you've heard this podcast, it's a bit nuanced, but like, the Raptors keep trying the same shit with Kyle Lowry trying to set his little step-up screen to get a switch onto a small guard against Kawhi so Kawhi can shoot over the top. It just doesn't work, man. It doesn't work. It's not a bad play on paper. It just has not worked. I don't know if it's because Kawhi's handles aren't great enough to really break down a smaller guy. Or maybe it's because they're setting the screen so far up the court that it's not really a threat. Like, it's just easy to recover on that play. But also in this specific case, it just doesn't work because Kyle Lowry was ass. Like, ass. So ass. 3 points. 1 of 8 shooting. 1 of 7 from deep. 5 turnovers. Like, just ass. In 36 minutes. Ass. Okay? So, like, why would you set the screen with Kyle Lowry? Because all that would do is give the Nets a chance to double Kawhi Leonard, right? And that's exactly what happened. They doubled Kawhi. Kawhi had to give up the ball. Kyle obviously is not shooting that ball. He's 1 of 8, although he did take 2 bad threes in overtime that I thought, what the hell are you doing? If you can't shoot and you clearly are like not 100%, why are you shooting? And Nick Nurse, why are you? I guess you can't really fault Nick for having Kyle in the game. That'd be kind of weird to mention, but I don't know, man. 3 points, 5 turnovers, god damn. But yeah, I mean, they don't even get the shot off with Kawhi because Kyle decides to go set that screen, and then all of a sudden they have to go scramble. They did get a good look for Fred VanVleet because DeMar Carroll was sagging off and looking to help, and made a bad decision defensively. But Fred, bricks the 3, and that was kind of the issue for the Raptors tonight. When you look at the overall shooting, 11 to 35 from deep, not the worst performance, definitely not great, but it's the same thing the Nets shot, for example. However, it was 5 threes made by Kawhi Leonard on 6 attempts. If you take that out of the game, the Raptors as a whole shot 6 of 29. The supporting cast just couldn't hit any shots. And so it was a disappointing game for sure. I mean, it was obviously had a lot of trap game elements. They had just come off a great win on Wednesday against Philadelphia. Then, they have that big game coming up on Sunday against the Bucks. You want to see how they stack up against the Raptors. The Bucks lost tonight to the Warriors by a score of 105 to 95. Pretty uncompetitive game, actually. Pretty fun to watch. But, the Raptors have that big game coming up, and so they probably looked past this one random game in Brooklyn, and it didn't have shoot-around in the morning, which I think that usually suggests that, they were probably out or whatever, so, you want to give them a little bit more time to rest. But, it was an ugly game, man. It was an ugly game. And look, this issue of Kyle Lowry scoring, it just keeps coming up. Kyle is averaging 8 points a game in the Raptors' 6 losses. 8 points a game. And this is the worst one of the bunch. I mean, I thought that, you couldn't get any lower than that Denver game when he was just trash. And then there was also just a lot of, the Warriors game where he was passing him the 3, although he did hit that corner 3 and whatever. So he kind of redeemed himself in that one. But his scoring has just fallen off a cliff. He doesn't look right physically. He just doesn't. Whether that's because he takes 100 hits a game. And tonight he had a hard hit where Hollis-Jefferson elbowed him in the ribs, and Kyle went over and doubled over and then complained to the refs and stuff like that. But this man takes hard hits every game. We saw in that Philly game, he slipped on the floor and it looked really bad, but he got back up and he took those huge charges against Embiid. But he just doesn't look right physically. He's already rested 1 game for the sore back. This would have been a good game to rest Kyle. It really would have been, but they didn't. And I don't know, man. Raptors need a secondary scorer, period. It's as simple as that. They can get some offense from the front court. It's great. Obviously, you got Kawhi as your small forward. You got Pascal as your power forward. He's doing all right. JV and Serge can score. Serge not so much today, but JV was fantastic. But they need more from Kyle. They just need more from Kyle. And if Kyle can't do that, then you need a secondary scorer because there's no way you can have every single game where Kawhi Leonard carries you. Kawhi played as well as he could, really, tonight, and they lost in overtime to the Nets. Why? Because Kyle just laid a stinker. You can't call this man your secondary option and have him score 3 points with 5 turnovers. And it's not just a one-off thing. It happens all the time. Let's be real. It happens in the playoffs, too. So, yeah, the Raptors got to do better there, and they just have to. The bench is, whatever. The bench is not great. A lot of missed threes by OG, a lot of missed drives by OG. CJ Miles is just straight up unplayable. I don't know what he's doing out there, but he's just gambling for everything, and it looks awful. Fred VanVleet is, man, they love, Nick Nurse loves on Fred VanVleet, man. He bets on Fred VanVleet more than Fred VanVleet does. DeLon, I mean, couldn't get some layups to fall, but I like the way he plays the game. Drives to the basket, looks to create. Danny Green was completely invisible. He's from New York. I think he had some sort of function there, and he has something planned for tonight as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if, he had some other extracurriculars, but he only had 2 shots in 34 minutes. Very unusual game from Green, but frustrating result. And quite honestly, the Raptors didn't deserve to win, and I think Brooklyn really deserved to win in this game because they've had so much bad luck, and the Raptors didn't do enough to create enough of their own luck. In terms of your 3 stars, Kawhi Leonard, number 1, 32 points, 3 rebounds, 4 assists, 4 steals, a block, 10 of 21 shooting, 5 of 6 from deep, 7 of 8 from the free throw line. His athleticism is definitely all the way back. He posterized Jared Allen on just very sneakily dunked. I guess we're just kind of used to him sort of being more methodical and stuff like that because he's sort of been on the mend. But man, I mean, you saw that in that Sixers game, that explosiveness that he had with that almost a free throw line dunk basically, and then today with a couple of plays really Just so impactful, so much in the zone. A buddy of mine, he told me that, when he watched the game, he was like, damn, this is like Kawhi has to carry a LeBron type of workload in this game. And I'm like, yeah, this is kind of where it's at, right? Like, he's number one, and then there's just kind of no number two. Someone will step up on most nights, but, most times they won't. And part of that is because Kyle is not that guy. So, Kawhi almost got them the win. Obviously, the execution late in the game could be a little bit better. It looked like he was a little bit tired late in the game. I'm not gonna lie, but ultimately you can't ask for anything more from Kawhi. He had a great performance. Second star goes to JV, 24 points in 26 minutes, 10 of 15 shooting, 0 of 2 from deep. His 3-point shooting isn't, whatever. It's not a consistent part of his game, and I don't think he's working on it nearly as much this year as he did previously. But it would be nice to see him hit a couple more threes because he is wide open, and those used to be just free points. But JV overall pretty solid. 8 rebounds as well. I don't like the way Nurse kind of benched him late because, he could have really helped create offense. The offense was really an issue for the Raptors, not defense. The Nets, whatever. They don't really have good crunch time offense. I think they could have been okay. The Raptors basically decided to switch everything, and it worked pretty well. Brooklyn only had 18 points in the fourth quarter and only 8 in overtime. So you will take 26 points over the span of, 17 minutes. However, I just think offensively the Raptors could have used JV's, they could have just used some scoring. But yeah, on the most part, JV was pretty solid, finished really well, physical down low. He plays really well against the Nets usually. And then in terms of your third star, I guess I'll give that to Pascal. 16 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal, 2 blocks. Pretty good defense all around. Had a couple of the shots that he would normally make rim out. I think that's just going to happen over time because it's no way he's going to shoot 70% on twos all year. He takes too many contested ones for that to go. But he does have soft touch, and today it was just unfortunate. But one thing I did notice with Siakam is teams are basically deciding, okay, so you got Kyle and whoever in the pick and roll, right? JV or Serge. They know that Kyle's not going to score, so they're going to give Kyle as much room as possible. They're going to drop the big back to try to deter the pass towards the middle. And just to send an extra level of deterrence, they're also helping off of Siakam as much as possible to disrupt that middle pick and roll. And so that's basically where the Raptors have really succeeded. On games where, Kyle has a ton of assists, that's usually him spamming middle pick and roll and then, dumping it to the big man. Teams are kind of adjusting to that, and Siakam has to hit more threes or basically hit more shots attacking off closeouts, and he can do that. He's had a couple of those, attacking closeouts. He doesn't always have to hit the three, but it is a bit of an issue. And again, it speaks to Kyle just straight up. Man, in a game where Spencer Dinwiddie was out there, D'Angelo Russell was out there, I'm like, yo, Kyle's not even the best point guard. Kyle Lowry had a shot in overtime where he pulled up, he was wide open, and he hit the backboard. I was like, yo, I'd rather have DeMar Carroll shooting the ball right now. It's really hard to watch, and I'm not saying this is, Kyle's just not 100%. He's just not. You can't tell me he's not 100%. He can't drive to the basket at all right now. His in between game, he just never trusts it for some reason. And then, the threes are just inconsistent, man. I mean, I'm serious. DeMar Carroll literally shot better than him tonight. DeMar had 10 points. He had 3 times as many points as Kyle did. Jesus Christ, man. Yeah, the Raptors point guard situation was tough to watch, especially because Dinwiddie's getting 17, D'Angelo Russell is getting 29, hitting a bunch of pull-up mid-range shots. Imagine your point guard being able to pull up and hit a jumper. Tough to watch. Anyway, in terms of your Gerald Henderson award, I'm going to give that to... I'll give it to Rondae Hollis-Jefferson. I thought he played some pretty good defense against Kawhi. Kawhi still hit a lot of shots, obviously, but he was decent in isolation against Kawhi. So I'll give it to him. It seems like those guys who are 6'8" and have big bodies and long arms usually disrupt Kawhi. KD would be in the exclusion because, the Raptors really, really went at KD, and I think Kawhi had 37 in that game. But Stanley Johnson, that type of body. It's the same thing, same deal here. I think even Justice Winslow did a pretty good job against Kawhi in that game too. But, credit Rondae. But he had 11 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal. Mostly I'm crediting him for the defense, not the offense. Offensively, he's just a chucker, man. I saw the man struggle to score on Javon Shepherd at Crown League. It's not a good look. Anyway, those are for the podcast. As always, you can read 10 things on Twitter, at William_Lou. And, I'll be back on Sunday to talk about that Bucks game. That should be fun. If they play like this tonight against the Bucks, they're going to lose. I'm just going to warn you right now.